everybody, it's Charisma of Charisma's Corner, and we are in the Little Pink Barn. And today we're going to work on a pattern called Sift. Sift is one of the creations that I really love. It's so bold and modern, and it's a great way to use those focus fabrics. And it's also, I think, a great way to work with curved piecing if you're not very comfortable with curved piecing, because the blocks are so huge. The bigger the curve, the more gentle it is and the easier it is to sew together. And my first pattern of Sift that I did is on the cover of the pattern, but I also have this one right here. This is a fat quarter friendly quilt. So each one of those circles is a fat quarter. And there's two different ways to construct these blocks in the pattern. I'm going to show you the pieced way, basically using Drunkard's Path blocks. But if you wanted to applique the circles, because with the Drunkard's Path method, we use 4 blocks to make 1 circle, right? So you have to cut that fabric. If you wanted the whole piece of fabric, you would need, let's see, 5/8 of a yard and not a fat quarter. So that's one thing. But then you don't have any seams in there. So there's 2 different ways to construct it. I'm going to show you the Drunkard's Path way because that's my preferred method and my comfortable zone. Applique is not my favorite unless it's fusible and something that I can do fairly quickly. But still a great way to showcase beautiful fabrics that you love. And this was a Wyndham line from many years ago called Color Theory, I believe. And then in my first one, I used Cafe fabrics. But the premise of the quilt was to, if you kind of like blow up a net and it catches those particles, or, you know, you're sifting out the bad and you're keeping those beautiful pebbles or treasures or whatever it is. And so if you kind of look at it as a whole, that's sort of what it looks like. And I love that theory. And I love a Drunkard's Path block because it really helps add that curved piecing when you don't want to applique, which has always been something that I sort of avoid if I can. So in fact, when I made my samples, it always takes longer to cut this quilt out than it does to actually sew it, because, you know, it goes together very quickly. So it's the cutting that will get you. So make sure it's all templates, that you check your test box. If it's off just by a smidge, it doesn't seem like that would make that huge of a difference. It makes a vastly huge difference. So make sure when you cut out your templates that you check that test box. Everything is good. I have mine done here. And all we're going to do is sew this green piece, which is like my net piece, to the background, and then we'll sew that curve. So we'll go ahead and notch this, or match the notches in the templates. We'll go ahead and sew that. And I'm not going to press that yet because I'm not going over anything that I've sewn, so I don't necessarily have to do that. But you'll notice there's a notch right here. You want to match up those notches in the pattern. And there we go. So when we sewed those white notches sort of lined up to the edge, and they hang off a little bit. You need that hang off for the unit to line up. So now we have our square unit and we have our Drunkard's Path. So there's a couple ways that we can do this. We can pin this because it is pretty big, but we can also fold this in half. So we have our crease right there. We're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to fold that in half. That way you know exactly where to line up your piece. We can pin that. You can pin this as much as you want. But like I said earlier, this is a very gentle curve. If you start in the middle, sew your way out this way, then come back, start in the middle, sew this way. You can just sort of ease it in. You want the machine to do the work. Let the feed dogs do the work. Don't tug on them. Just sort of guide them through. So we'll go ahead and do that on the machine. I'm just going to start in the middle. And I'm just going to hold this top layer with one hand, and I'm just going to hold the bottom with the white layer, the background, with my other hand, but I'm not tugging or pulling. I'm just letting the machine guide. I'm just guiding it, letting the machine do the work, but kind of guiding it through. Okay, so one side is done. That lines up, and we're going to go ahead and do the other side. Okay, and here is our Drunkard's Path block. I'm going to go ahead and press that. And you can press either in or out, but I'm going to press towards the dark in this situation. But again, so here is our Sift block. And again, this one is 1/4 of a circle. So that is pretty quick and easy, and you could totally make one circle, you know, applique a saying or a quote, a picture, you know, anything, but they are huge blocks. The whole quilt will make 12 circles. If you wanted to just do 4 of them, that would be a good baby size quilt. So thank you for joining me today to do Sift, and I hope you find this is a great way to use those fat quarters or fabrics that you have been holding on to and didn't want to cut up. So until then, bye!